My mom and sister were putting together a celebration for Grandpa's 90th birthday. As my husband leaned in closer, his voice barely above a whisper, he urged me, "Get your bag." In that moment, I felt a rush of emotions, a mix of urgency and uncertainty swirling within me. I'm filled with a mix of emotions as we prepare to leave. Put on a brave face, pretending that everything is fine, even when deep down, I know it's not. I remember thinking he was just being dramatic, but then he locked the car doors and said, "Something's very, very wrong." In that moment, a chill ran down my spine. 5 minutes later, I found myself dialing the police. It had been 5 years since I last laid eyes on most of these people, and for some even longer than that. There were a few people there, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I had never crossed paths with them before. A plastic flute of champagne was handed to me, and in that moment I felt a mix of anticipation and nostalgia wash over me. I watched as a kid dashed past me, gripping a paper plate, as if it were a steering wheel lost in a world of imagination. As I looked around, I noticed the folding chairs set up in neat rows, the soft glow of paper lanterns, casting a warm light, and the gentle strains of polite music drifting from a Bluetooth speaker, creating an atmosphere that felt both familiar and comforting. Everything you need for a simple, heartfelt outdoor celebration. It was a time filled with celebration, yet there was an undeniable sense of awkwardness in the air. It felt like everything was going to be okay, and for that first hour, I truly believed it was. I stood by the table of finger food, pretending to be interested in grape skewers. Daniel was right there next to me, a glass of white wine in his hand, his gaze scanning the crowd with that familiar, unreadable expression. It was the kind of look he wore when he was too courteous to admit he was ready to go. Mom was truly in her element, embracing everyone around her, gently wiping away tears and dabbing her lipstick with a napkin in between. My dad was there by the grill, grumbling about the weather, as if it had taken a personal jab at him. My sister Jessica was, as always, nowhere to be found. My husband was laughing at something that seemed to escape everyone else's understanding. And in that moment, I felt a mix of confusion and concern wash over me. It was Grandpa's house, yet somehow it felt like a stranger to me now. After the business took off, he poured his heart into building it. It wasn't extravagant, but it was substantial enough that I could hear the whispers about how well I had managed to carve out my place in the world. Everyone I cared about had found their way here to this place we now called home. My mom, my dad, my sister Jessica, and her husband. I guess there was space for it all. I remember the moment we landed just the day before coming in from London. For years, I found myself asking when we could finally come for a visit, but the answers I received were always so unclear, leaving me with a sense of longing and uncertainty. I just feel like it's not a good time right now. I'm really worried about him. He's just not feeling well at all. Perhaps next year will be the time for it. This spring, my mom told me if I truly wanted to see him, I should come for his birthday. I made the decision to take it. I found myself hoping that she was starting to soften, that perhaps this moment held some significance. The party was alive with laughter and music when they wheeled Grandpa in his hair neatly brushed and that familiar sweater vest draped over his shoulders. It felt like a moment suspended in time, a bittersweet reminder of the past. It felt like the whole room erupted in applause, as if he had just stepped onto a red carpet, basking in the admiration of everyone around him. I stood there completely frozen in place. He looked good, almost too good. His face was smooth, and his eyes seemed to drift away as if he were caught in a melody that only he could perceive. I raised my hand in a gentle wave. I watched him, hoping for a sign, a simple wave that never came. My heart sank a little more with each passing second. I convinced myself it was just a matter of getting older. My mom leaned in close and whispered softly to me, "He hardly says a word these days. It's really tough for him." I nodded, pretending to understand. As she lifted her glass, her voice trembled slightly. turning the toast into a moment that felt deeply personal, almost as if it was more about her than the occasion itself. Years filled with wisdom, love, and generosity was the foundation of our family. Life was a gift from him to us. As I looked around the room, I noticed a few guests quietly wiping away tears, their sniffles breaking the heavy silence. I heard a woman behind me whisper the word, beautiful, softly, almost as if it was a secret meant just for me. Daniel just stood there, his hands at his sides, not joining in the applause. I felt his gaze on me, and it caught me off guard. Hey, I whispered softly, giving him a gentle nudge. What's going on with you? He didn't say a word, just kept his gaze fixed on Grandpa, or the man in the chair, I suppose, like he was trying to memorize every single wrinkle. Daniel, I repeated, my voice steady, yet filled with an unspoken weight. In that moment, he leaned in closer. Grab your bag. I'm filled with a mix of emotions as I say those words. We're leaving. Just pretend everything is fine. I found myself laughing. I can't believe this is happening. He just stood there, his face expressionless, and I couldn't help but feel a pang of disappointment. It was as if the warmth of joy had been stripped away, leaving only a cold silence between us. His eyes remained fixed, unblinking. Grab your bag. What are you trying to say? With a smile on my face, I step inside and begin to pack. It feels like a new chapter is about to unfold. I couldn't take my eyes off him. Daniel, can you help me understand what this is? I can hardly believe we finally made it here. He turned his head slowly, and at that moment our eyes met for the first time. I can feel it deep inside me, something is off and it's haunting me. It wasn't about the words he used. He was so calm, as if this was just a simple truth, as undeniable as gravity itself. My hands felt like ice. I turned my gaze back to Grandpa. He just stood there completely still. My hands sat on the armrest, feeling almost like they were just there for show. Are you really serious right now? I found the courage to ask. Daniel just sat there, silent, not saying a word. I watched as he walked toward the house, each step heavy with unspoken thoughts. I made my way upstairs, my heart racing with anticipation. I struggled with the zipper on my overnight bag, my fingers trembling slightly as I tried to get it open. My heart was pounding in my chest. My mouth felt parched. I couldn't shake the thought that if he was wrong, I would feel utterly humiliated. If he's right. I stepped out through the front door. We moved forward, unimpeded by anyone around us. No one even glanced my way. As I approached the car, Daniel swung open the passenger side door for me, and in that moment, I felt like I had stepped into a scene from a classic spy movie, where chivalry meets intrigue. We both stepped inside. As he turned the key in the lock, a wave of finality washed over me. It felt like sealing away a part of my world, a moment that would linger in my mind long after the sound of the click faded away. Then he tightened his grip on the steering wheel and said, "That's not your grandfather." There was a time when I questioned my own perception, wondering if I was just imagining the stark contrast in how life unfolded for me compared to my sister. Perhaps I was simply too sensitive. Perhaps I was being a bit over the top. Perhaps I have a tendency to seek out reasons to feel excluded. I had been telling myself that for years, until the moment Jessica turned 18. It felt like the whole house was bracing for a storm, as if she were about to board the Titanic. I stood at the front door, my duffel bag in hand, a full tuition scholarship tucked away in my heart. Mom was there, tears streaming down her face, as if she had lost something precious. "Please, you don't have to go," she kept saying. "I know we'll find a way to get through this. I really need you to stay a little longer." 2 years ago, when I finally turned 18, I found myself with a suitcase in hand and a simple nod of approval. "It's time to grow up," my dad had said. I find myself standing here realizing that I've crossed that threshold into adulthood. Go out there and create the life you've always dreamed of. There were no hugs, no tears, and no one to offer a hand as I packed my things. I really hope I don't come across as bitter. I truly don't. I made the decision to move out. As I stepped onto the college campus, a whirlwind of emotions flooded over me. It felt like a new chapter was beginning, filled with both excitement and uncertainty. I remember the anticipation of what was to come, the dreams I held close, and the fears that lingered in the back of my mind. College was more than just a place to learn. It was a journey that would shape. I moved forward, but it felt strange to be shown the door, as if I were just a courteous visitor. As I watch my sister being begged to stay, it hits me in a way I can't quite shake off. It's kind of ironic when I think about it. I never really had a say in the whole college thing. I felt it deep within me that I had to go not because anyone else urged me, but because I was searching for a reason to break free. Not a single cent came from my parents. It feels like they didn't even care to ask about what I was studying. It was my grandpa who stepped in silently offering his support. Every few months he would send me money just enough to help me get by. Every month I find myself juggling rent, groceries, and the inevitable breakdowns that seem to pop up out of nowhere. There it was, simple and unadorned, a folded check accompanied by a note written in his unsteady hand. No fuss, no lectures, just a raw moment of honesty that spoke volumes. I truly hope this brings you some comfort. I just want you to know how proud I am of you. He didn't have to do that for me, but he chose to anyway. I can still picture him from the very start. Even before I could form complete sentences, I had my grandpa by my side. He would lift me up and share stories in a voice that felt like it held hidden truths. He crafted toys from wood for me, patiently teaching me how to use a hand plane while I was still wearing my Velcro sneakers. His scent wrapped around me like a warm embrace, a blend of cedar and peppermint tea that lingered in the air, evoking memories I never knew I had. In those moments, it truly felt like he belonged to me, as if I held the special place in his heart. Perhaps I was, but life has a way of tearing people apart. College became just another job for me. A job became Daniel. And then in an instant, we found ourselves in London. It wasn't a grand escape filled with tension and chaos. It felt like a moment where everything aligned: opportunity, hard work, the right timing. And if I'm truly being honest, there was a sense of relief that washed over me. Being far away somehow made everything feel lighter, as if the distance shielded me from the weight of it all. It was simpler to ignore the fact that my parents hardly ever reached out. It felt simpler to convince myself that the silence was merely a matter of time zones. It was simpler to ignore the strange emptiness that lingered after every conversation with Jessica. Even though it felt like we were close, our connection was more of a distant echo. There were those holiday emails that came through, and every now and then a Zoom call that felt both familiar and distant. The last genuine conversation I shared with Grandpa happened on one of those days. I found myself sitting in front of the screen, the familiar anticipation bubbling inside me as I prepared for a video chat. It felt like a bridge connecting us, a way to share our thoughts and emotions, even when miles apart. I took a deep breath, ready to dive into the conversation that awaited us. He seemed older, yet there was still a sharpness in his gaze that caught my attention. He wanted to know about my work. I found myself asking him about his garden. He laughed and said the squirrels were stealing all his tomatoes, and I couldn't help but smile at the image. It was a light moment, but it also felt like a glimpse into his world, where even the little things could bring a chuckle amidst the chaos. It feels like just yesterday, but it was actually 3 years ago. After that, everything seemed to settle into a stillness that felt almost heavy. I would ask to talk to him, but Mom would always say he was sleeping, or not feeling well, or just too tired. In the end, she just stopped responding completely. I kept convincing myself that it was just a part of life, that it was normal. As time passes, we all grow older. They pull away. Perhaps he found it difficult to express himself. Yet there was always a lingering feeling that something was off. I chose not to press on. There was a time when I had a life that felt complete, a job that challenged me, and a husband who stood by my side. I kept convincing myself that it wasn't personal. I realized that I just wasn't meant for this. It felt like I was just gently, politely left behind. And then out of nowhere, I found myself staring at the birthday invitation, or rather the freedom to be myself. "If you truly want to see him," Mom said over the phone, "you should come for his 90th. I felt a surge of determination and didn't hesitate for a moment. That night, I found myself booking the flights, a decision that felt both exhilarating and terrifying all at once. I really believed it held some significance. I felt a stirring inside me, a sense that perhaps this was the moment everything would change. I felt a glimmer of hope, as if I was being welcomed back in after a long absence. I found myself stepping into a party, feeling the weight of unfamiliar faces all around me. I stood on grass that felt strangely unfamiliar beneath my feet. And I came to understand that at some point this entire place ceased to feel like it belonged to me. If it ever truly was, everyone I cared about was here with me now. Mom, Father, Jessica, my husband. They had taken in the house as if it were a part of their bond, seamlessly woven into the fabric of their togetherness. Their true family. I found myself just passing through. I often feel like the outsider. I repeatedly convinced myself that it was all just in my head. I realized now that I was projecting. I realized I was being dramatic again. But then Daniel leaned in close and said, "Get your bag." Everything felt so real, as if the lines between dreams and reality had completely blurred. We sat in the car, a heavy silence enveloping us, as if we had just crossed a line we could never uncross. Or maybe it felt like we had just broken free from one. I still couldn't see the difference. Daniel held onto the steering wheel as if it were a wild animal, ready to spring at any moment. His knuckles turned white, and I could feel the tension radiating from him. My heart raced as I noticed his knuckles stark white against the tension in the air. I found myself stuck halfway through, buckling my seatbelt, as if leaving it unclicked would somehow make everything that was happening feel unreal. "What do you mean it's not him?" He just wouldn't meet my gaze. "It's just not the same as your grandfather. What does that even mean?" "What are you saying?" He looked me in the eyes and said, "I'm serious." Serene, yet lacking warmth. "The man in the wheelchair, that's not who he is." I looked at him in disbelief, as if he had just claimed the cake was made of something utterly outrageous. "Do you really believe that someone just put on a mask? Am I like one of those villains from Scooby-Doo?" "It's not just a mask. His ears truly are different." I blinked, and in that moment, everything around me seemed to pause, as if the world was holding its breath alongside me. His ears were always so sensitive, picking up sounds that others seemed to miss. I often found myself wondering what he heard, what stories those little things could tell, if only they could speak. It was as if they held secrets, whispers of the world around him that I could only imagine. At last, Daniel turned his gaze toward me. "You just don't understand." Faces linger in my mind, each one telling a story of its own. Every single detail. Since I was a kid, I've carried this with me. There's this vivid memory of a person I caught a glimpse of at a train station back in 2009. It's strange how certain moments stick with you, isn't it? I can still picture them so clearly even after all these years. Faces linger in my mind, etched in memory like a vivid painting. I carry them with me, each one telling a story that resonates deep within my heart. Or perhaps our ears. "That isn't your grandfather." In that moment, I felt my stomach twist and churn, as if it had turned to water. I longed for a laugh, but not the kind that comes easily or superficially. It felt like everything was coming apart, a sharp, dizzying descent into chaos. I felt the warmth of my palm against my skin, a moment of stillness, as I pressed my hand to my face. I found myself wrestling with my thoughts, desperately trying to make sense of it all. But what could it possibly be? Who else could it possibly be? As I stood there, I couldn't help but glance back at the house, memories flooding my mind. My uncle. What is happening? I remember you mentioning how much he resembled your grandfather in his younger days, didn't you? I truly did. I had. He really did. It feels like a lifetime has passed since then. And then there's my uncle. No, he really wasn't there, was he? I remember feeling a strange emptiness when I realized he hadn't been at the party. I hadn't said a word. Plus, oh my God, I whispered to myself, feeling the weight of the moment. He had those glasses perched on his nose, a familiar sight that brought back so many memories. And there was a beard. It's likely makeup. It wasn't extravagant, but it felt just right. I'm just being honest with you, those ears are something else. A different shape. It's hard to put into words just how far off it feels. Daniel. I remember him saying that, and it felt like he truly understood me in that moment. I can't shake the image from my mind. I know what I saw. I leaned my forehead against the cool glass of the window. As I exhaled, the glass became clouded with my breath. My heart felt like it was pounding so hard, it might just break free from my chest. It was hard for me to accept what he was saying. I longed for the days when it was simply a strange party, and I was just the uninvited guest, the daughter who didn't meet expectations, the outsider passing through. In that moment, reality wrapped around me like a warm blanket, offering a sense of safety I desperately craved. So where is he? Daniel just sat there silent, and it felt like the weight of his unspoken words hung heavy in the air. Where is he? I can't help but feel this ache in my chest, a longing that seems to grow with each passing moment. It's as if a part of me is missing, and I can't shake the feeling that I need him here right now. The question washed over me, a sudden release like the moment a fever finally breaks. Where has Grandpa gone? In an instant, the world around me shifted, and I felt everything tilt beneath my feet. The toasts that made me cringe. I found myself overwhelmed by the tears. The guest list with so many names missing felt like a reminder of what could have been. It felt like there was an invisible barrier, a wall that kept me from getting close to him. It was the silence that spoke volumes. Every time I tried, they shut me down, and it hurt deeply. It's been 3 years since I last spoke to him, I found myself saying aloud. Daniel looked my way, and in that moment I felt a rush of emotions swirling inside me. What do you mean? I took a deep breath and swallowed hard. It's been 3 long years. It was the last time we connected, and it happened over Zoom. He seemed worn out. Then Mom told me he was too sick to talk. Each time I reached out, the response was the same: he's resting, or he had a rough night. I used to think I was just being dramatic, but now I find myself questioning if I've been screaming into a void all along. Okay, Daniel said, I think you really need to reach out to someone. I couldn't take my eyes off him. Are you talking about the police? He gave a single deliberate nod. If we're mistaken, then we're not. I stood still. I held my breath. I can still see the expression on Mom's face as I walked away. Her smile was tight, a fragile curve that never reached her eyes. She shook her head just a little, and in that moment I felt like I had intruded into my own life. I felt the weight of my words as I whispered, I'm going to ruin everything. Emily, Daniel said softly, You didn't do that. As I reached for my phone, it felt as if it were burdened with the weight of 1,000 pounds. My thumb lingered above the screen, a moment of hesitation, and then I pressed the call button. To my surprise, the police showed up quicker than I had anticipated. 2 officers dressed in plain clothes moved silently through the room. They came up to us while we were sitting in the car. I shared what I could, even though it felt like so little, and I tried my best to make it sound as rational as I could. It was far from easy. It might sound odd, but I truly feel that someone is pretending to be my grandfather. I can't shake the feeling that something's not right. I have no idea where he is, and that uncertainty is eating away at me. I found myself facing a barrage of questions, ones that bring a sense of peace. They have a way of feeling like traps, even when I know deep down they're not. They nodded and approached the house, moving with a quiet purpose, as if they were bringing something important, something that needed to be handed over carefully. I sat in the car, just watching. The party lingered on, refusing to fade into silence just yet. No one let out a sound. Not a single person moved. It felt even more painful than that. It felt as if the world around me had faded, as if someone had quietly turned the dial on reality, softening everything to a muted blur. Even with glasses in hand and smiles on their faces, I could see the unease in their eyes, the tension in their shoulders. I watched as the officers started pulling people aside, and my heart sank. It felt like a moment frozen in time, filled with uncertainty and fear. I watched as one of them talked to my mom. She had that expression as if someone had just broken the news that the wine was corked. In that moment, she became defensive, her hands moving animatedly as she shook her head in disbelief. Her mouth was a whirlwind of words, yet her hands remained still, almost frozen in place. She kept her distance, not reaching out to anyone, not even to Dad. I watched him from a distance, his gaze fixed on the hedge, as if it contained the secrets he desperately sought. I sat there, my heart heavy, as I watched them engage with the man in the wheelchair. Not a single word escaped his lips. It felt like a moment frozen in time, and I could almost hear the question hanging in the air. They must have asked for ID. Mom stepped inside for a moment, and when she returned, she had something in her hands. It didn't change a thing. Then the officers knelt once more, their voices barely above a whisper. They held on to that calm demeanor, as if it were a shield against the chaos around them. There I was, trying to maintain a sense of calm, keeping my composure intact, but deep down I felt like I was an open book with pages that no one could read. Then one of them got up and just walked away. One of us chose to stay. In that moment, the man in the wheelchair finally lifted his gaze and spoke up, breaking the silence that hung in the air. It's amazing how just a few words can hold so much weight. They can carry memories, emotions, and stories that linger long after they're spoken. Sometimes it's those simple phrases that resonate the deepest within us. In that moment, he nodded, and it felt like a silent agreement between us, a shared understanding that spoke volumes without a single word being exchanged. It felt like the end, but deep down, I knew it wasn't over, not even close. An officer returned to the car. "Could you please stay close to me? I'll reach out to you shortly." Could it really be him? I found the courage to ask. Could it be my grandfather? We're still working through some details, but deep down, I know it's not him. He just stayed silent, and that silence spoke volumes. "I promise we'll reach out soon." And just like that, he turned and walked away. I sat there, each second weighing heavily on my chest, and I couldn't help but wonder, where is he? Where is he? I can't help but feel a deep ache in my chest as I search for answers. It's as if a part of me is missing, and I just need to know where he is to feel whole again. That night, my phone rang once more. How could you do this to me? My mom was a whirlwind of emotions, her face twisted in fury, tears streaming down her cheeks as she either cried or screamed. I found myself lost, unable to distinguish one thing from another. "You reached out to the police about us, my own family. It feels like you think you're above us now that you've moved away." I attempted to find my voice. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. "You just don't get it. I felt your absence deeply. I wish you could have seen what it was like. We made the choices we needed to make, not just for him, but for all of us." I found myself at a crossroads, unsure of which path to take. The weight of the decision pressed heavily on my heart, and I knew I had to make a choice that would shape my future. I asked, my voice trembling, "Where is he?" I can't help but feel this ache in my chest, a longing that seems to stretch on forever. The uncertainty gnaws at me, and I find myself searching for answers in the quiet moments of my day. It's as if his absence has carved out a space in my heart that I can't quite fill. I just want that question is not yours to ask. I can't do this right now. I can't move forward after everything that's happened between us. Where has Grandpa gone? In that moment, there was nothing but silence. Then there was a click, and just like that, the line went dead. As I stood there, heart racing, the sound of the police knocking on our hotel room door the next morning made my stomach churn. I felt like I might throw up. It wasn't just fear that held me back, though that was certainly a part of it. Deep down, I clung to the hope that maybe, just maybe, Daniel had simply lost his grip on reality. I misunderstood something. I lost myself in the moment. I thought I heard something, but it turned out to be just a trick of my mind, a fleeting whisper that led me astray. There I was, caught in a web of confusion, grappling with the unsettling feeling of being someone I wasn't. It was a moment that shook me to my core, leaving me questioning everything I thought I knew about myself and how others perceived me. The weight of that misunderstanding lingered, a reminder of how fragile our identities can be in the eyes of the world. I got everything wrong. Yet they never showed up to arrest us or even ask us a single question. I remember the moment they came to tell me that my grandfather was gone. It had been 3 long years. They didn't express it that way, of course. In that moment, they exuded a calmness that felt almost surreal, their professionalism shining through like a beacon in the chaos around us. One officer did most of the talking, while the other kept his eyes fixed on me, as if he expected me to run at any moment. I've made a statement willingly. It is with a heavy heart that I share the news of Mr. Ellis's passing in March 2022, as reported by his family. They say it was just natural causes. I remember the day we laid the body to rest, a quiet moment shared away from the world. It felt so personal, so intimate, as if we were honoring a part of ourselves in that sacred ground. I took a seat. I felt completely numb, as if my legs and fingers had vanished into thin air. I want to share that we're approaching this situation as an open investigation, holding on to hope, until the coroner can provide clarity on the circumstances surrounding the death. The words hit me, but they didn't penetrate. They just fell away like raindrops sliding off the surface of a locked car. I could hear them, their voices weaving through the air, pulling at something deep within me. I really struggled to take them in. It's been 3 years. It's been 3 long years, so there I was, pouring my heart into those birthday cards. I had been yearning for those Zoom calls. I found myself questioning if I had somehow messed up. I can't help but wonder if Grandpa is upset with me for leaving. It weighs on my heart. I wondered if he was simply exhausted, lost in his thoughts, or too unwell to find the words to speak. No, he was no longer there. I found out on my own without a word from them. I remember the silence that hung in the air, heavy and unspoken. They kept it to themselves, not a word to anyone. It's all a blur, but I know I spoke to the officers. What I said feels lost in the haze of that moment. I remember asking if he was in pain. I remember them saying they didn't know yet. I remember asking if that man at the party was my uncle. They nodded, and in that moment I felt a rush of understanding pass between us. I felt this overwhelming urge to scream, to hit something, or to just find a dark corner and hide away forever. In that moment, all I could do was say thank you. Like I'm supposed to be. It feels like I'm just a well-mannered fool. A few days later, I began to see the news slowly emerge online. In the beginning, it was merely whispers that floated around me. Posts on Reddit, a neighborhood gossip blog. And then out of nowhere, someone shared a video. The video is grainy and shaky, capturing the moment of the birthday toast in a way that feels raw and real. I remember the moment my mother wiped her eyes. About my grandfather. No, not him acting like he was truly listening, as if it all mattered. 3 years have passed since this man left us. My family gathered together to celebrate my 90th birthday, a moment filled with love and cherished memories. In the end, it wasn't me. Someone else took on that role. The internet played its familiar role once again. It let out a laugh. Then I found myself wondering. Then it ripped us apart, leaving nothing but fragments of what we once were. I chose not to read the comments. I can't say it was after the first 20. It felt like I was being labeled with every negative term imaginable: an accomplice, a narcissist, an ungrateful brat. People said I should have just stepped back and let my family deal with their struggles in peace. Everyone seemed to have something to say. It's something I've come to realize people always do. It was then that I received the call from the lawyer. I'm not their lawyer, mine. My grandpa's place holds so many memories for me. Emily, I've been reaching out to you for what feels like ages now. I was so close to just ending the call. The house. It holds so many memories, each corner whispering stories of laughter and tears. I can still feel the warmth of the sun streaming through the windows, illuminating the moments that shaped me. It's more than just walls and a roof. It's a piece of my heart, a sanctuary of my past. The assets of the business, the rest of the trust. It feels like everything is weighing on me. I found myself staring at the floor, lost in thought. At that frustrating grout line in the kitchen tile that never seems to align just right. My throat felt parched. He spoke softly, as if trying to reassure me. This wasn't a secret. He shared it with your mother, my sister. It feels like a lifetime ago. And in that moment, everything fell into place. The lies weigh heavy on my heart. It was the secrecy that weighed heavily on my heart. Those parties that felt so unreal. There was a man in a wheelchair. They weren't merely concealing his death from me. They had been keeping it a secret from me. Because if he was gone, everything would belong to me. And if I hadn't found out, they would have continued to live in his house, unaware of the truth that lingered just beneath the surface. I'll just keep relying on his money. Just keep acting like I was never here. I picked up the phone and dialed my mom's number, my heart racing with anticipation. I found myself lost, unsure of what I truly wanted. I'm searching for answers, perhaps. When the phone rang, my heart raced and she answered on the second ring. How could you do this to me? My heart raced as her voice trembled with anger. It's not grief. There's no shame in this. Anger surged through me, a tempest I couldn't ignore. It felt like a fire igniting within, consuming everything in its path. I grappled with it, trying to understand where it came from and why it had taken hold of me so fiercely. Each heartbeat echoed my frustration, a reminder of the turmoil swirling inside. I was left to confront the rawness of my emotions, feeling both vulnerable and powerful in their wake. I found myself in a heart-wrenching situation where I had to call the police on my own family. You made us feel small. I can't even begin to express the impact of your actions. You truly have no idea what you've done. I found myself struggling to find the words. She just wouldn't allow me to. I felt your absence deeply. You can't possibly understand what I went through. You walked away. I can't help but feel that you walked away from us, from this family. And now you come in playing the part of a hero. Where is he? I can't help but feel this ache in my chest, a longing that seems to grow stronger with each passing moment. It's as if a part of me is missing, and I can't shake the feeling that something is off. I just need to know where he is to feel that connection again. I found myself cutting in. In that stillness, everything felt amplified. The quiet wrapped around me, heavy and thick, like a blanket of unspoken words. I could hear my own heartbeat, a reminder of my existence in a world that felt so distant. It was in that silence that I confronted my thoughts, each one echoing louder than the last, demanding to be acknowledged. I sat there, enveloped in the moment, feeling every ounce of emotion rise within me, raw and unfiltered. What really happened to him? What happened to his body? You don't get to ask that. She said, her voice cutting through the air with an icy edge, "I wish you could have been there." Every year I found myself asking. I confronted you and I felt the weight of your deception. It hurt to say those words, but I had to speak my truth. It happens every single time. I thought we were doing the right thing, that we were protecting him. I want to keep you safe. He really didn't want anyone to make a fuss about his death. I wanted peace. I found myself laughing. I found myself genuinely laughing. I emerged feeling broken and resentful. It feels like I'm shattered, crumbling beneath the weight of it all. I couldn't protect him. I took everything from him. In that moment, she just hung up. Weeks went by. As I watched the investigation unfold, I couldn't shake the feeling of frustration. It felt like time was dragging on, each moment stretching out longer than the last. Then I pushed myself to go faster. There were moments when words were spoken, interviews. When I think about subpoenas, a wave of anxiety washes over me. They represent a moment of confrontation, a call to face the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. It's a reminder that sometimes we are pulled into situations beyond our control, and we must navigate the complexities of our own stories, often with a heavy heart. In the end, the coroner validated what my family had been saying all along. It was just the way of life, I suppose. Natural causes, they say, but it feels so much more than that. It's a reminder of the fragility of our existence, the moments we take for granted. I can't help but reflect on everything that led to this point, the intertwining of lives and the inevitable passage of time. It's a bittersweet realization, one that tugs at my heart in ways I never expected. I lost my grandfather. He passed away quietly in his sleep. There's no trauma here, no poisoning, no violence. It's simply the quiet conclusion of an old man's journey. For the first time since the police visit, tears streamed down my face. At last I found the space to grieve him, free from any uncertainty. Yet the fraud lingered in the shadows. The act of pretending to be someone else, taking on their identity, their mannerisms, their voice. It's a strange feeling, stepping into another person's shoes, even if just for a moment. There's a thrill in it, but also a heaviness that lingers. It's not just about the laughter or the applause. It's about the truth, hidden beneath the surface, the stories we tell ourselves and others. In that moment of impersonation, I found a reflection of my own struggles, my own desires, and the longing to be understood. It's a dance of vulnerability, a glimpse into the complexity of who we are and who we wish to be. The money was everything to me, a constant presence that shaped my choices and my life. It felt like a weight I carried, a burden that dictated my happiness and my dreams. I often found myself lost in thoughts about it, wondering if I would ever have enough, if it would ever be enough. It was a source of anxiety, but also a glimmer of hope, a promise of what could be, if only I could grasp it tightly enough. I remember the moments when it slipped through my fingers, leaving me feeling empty and vulnerable, questioning my worth and my path. The money in all its complexity was intertwined with my very being, a silent partner in my journey. I found out that charges were filed. Not reporting a death feels like carrying an unbearable weight. It's a moment that should be shared, a truth that deserves to be acknowledged. The silence that follows can be deafening, leaving a void that echoes with unspoken grief. I can't help but feel the heaviness of that choice, the emotional turmoil it brings. It's a haunting reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of connection in our darkest moments. I find myself grappling with the weight of secrets, the burden of holding back what I know. It feels heavy, like a stone lodged in my chest, and I wonder if sharing would lighten the load or just complicate things further. The silence can be deafening, and I often question whether it's better to speak up or remain quiet, caught in this internal struggle of honesty and fear. Finding myself in a situation where I was drawn to the idea of accessing funds that weren't rightfully mine felt like a heavy weight on my conscience. It was a moment of desperation, a choice that seemed to promise relief, but ultimately led me down a path I never intended to take. I grappled with the emotions swirling inside me, knowing that this decision, living a lie about who I truly am. They walked away without facing any prison time. I found out they received probation. It feels like everything hinges on conditions, doesn't it? The weight of expectations can be overwhelming, and I often find myself caught in a web of what-ifs. It's a constant battle between desire and reality, where every choice seems to come with strings attached. I wish things could be simpler, but life has a way of complicating even the most straightforward decisions. Each moment feels like a negotiation, and I can't help but wonder how different things might be if only the conditions were right. I felt the weight of being watched, every move, scrutinized, every decision, second-guessed. It was as if my life was no longer my own, but a series of moments captured and analyzed by unseen eyes. The sense of being monitored seeped into my bones, leaving me restless and uneasy. It was delivered with a firmness that left no room for doubt. If they stumbled once more, it would mean a direct path to jail. My uncle the actor found himself confronting his own set of charges, yet he chose to cooperate. It felt like a relief, like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. He took the rest of them away. What about me? I finally got the house. Every inch of the property. The assets. They hold so much weight, don't they? Each one tells a story, a piece of my journey, my struggles and my triumphs. They're not just numbers or possessions. They represent the hard work and sacrifices I've made along the way. It's a reflection of who I am and what I've built layer by layer, moment by moment. It wasn't anything over the top. I'm not at billionaire level. It felt like so much to bear. It was clear to me now the reasons behind their long-standing facade. I held on to them, unable to let go. The courts did make their decision. We left without a word, the air thick with unspoken feelings. I won't say I'm sorry. I couldn't bring myself to meet their gaze. There it was, a note from my mother resting quietly on the kitchen counter, waiting for me to find it. It felt like a punch to the gut when it said, "You always were good at taking what you didn't earn." I watched it go up in flames right there in the sink. On that first night I found myself there alone, just passing through before returning to London. I settled into Grandpa's chair. I uncorked a bottle of wine, feeling the anticipation wash over me. I placed my feet on the table. It felt so still, almost like the world had paused for a moment. It still carried that familiar scent of wood polish. I found myself devoid of triumph, vindication, or even anger. It was as if those emotions had slipped away, leaving me in a quiet, reflective space. I felt like my feelings didn't matter at all. For the first time in my life, I felt a sense of belonging. It's been a while since I last spoke to my parents. Or my sister, I didn't even get a text. There are moments when I find myself questioning whether I crossed a line. Sometimes I find myself questioning whether I truly pushed myself to the limit. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. If you're looking for more stories that resonate, I invite you to subscribe and tap the bell. It means a lot to me to share these moments with you.